Have you ever felt like a part of you is hidden, maybe even unknown to yourself? Like there's a version of you beneath the surface that only comes out at certain moments? What if your personality isn't just who you are, but who you could be? Today, we're diving into a theory that doesn't just explain what you do, but who you truly are inside. Ladies and gentlemen, today, we're exploring one of the most profound and mystical understandings of human nature ever proposed, Carl Jung's theory of personality. Carl Jung believed that each of us carries within us much more than what we show on the outside. He introduced the idea of the collective unconscious, a deep part of the mind that we all share as humans. It's not about personal memories, but a shared psychological inheritance, patterns, images, and instincts that have been passed down through generations. This is where Jung's most famous concept comes in: archetypes. Archetypes are universal symbols that exist in all human cultures. Think of the hero, the mother, the shadow, the wise old man. These are not just characters in stories. Jung believed they are parts of ourselves. When we watch a movie and feel inspired by a hero, it's not just admiration. It's because that heroic archetype also lives within us. Jung said our personalities are shaped by how we interact with these archetypes in our inner world. Another major contribution from Jung was his understanding of introversion and extroversion. Before Jung, personality wasn't categorized this way. Jung explained that extroverts gain energy from the outer world, people, social settings, noise. Introverts, on the other hand, draw energy from within, silence, solitude, deep thoughts. He didn't say one was better than the other. Instead, he suggested we all have both sides, but one dominates more naturally. Even today, almost every personality test, including the popular Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, MBTI, uses Jung's introversion-extroversion foundation. Jung's theory wasn't just about categories. It was about balance. He introduced the idea of individuation, the process of becoming whole. According to him, the goal of life is not to be perfect, but to become complete. That means acknowledging the part of ourselves we usually ignore or suppress, what he called the shadow. The shadow contains the traits we deny, our fears, insecurities, hidden desires. But Jung didn't see the shadow as evil. He believed that true growth only happens when we confront our shadow and integrate it into our conscious personality. He also spoke about the persona, the mask we wear in society. It's the version of us we show to others. Polite, strong, successful, composed. But often, the more we rely on persona, the more disconnected we become from our true self. Jung warned that if we identify too strongly with a mask, we might lose touch with the deeper truths inside us. For Jung, dreams were another gateway into the self. He believed dreams weren't random or meaningless. Instead, they were messages from the unconscious, a way for our inner world to communicate. In dreams, archetypes come alive. We might dream of a dark forest and feel fear, perhaps a representation of the shadow. Or we might see a mentor guiding us, the wise old man archetype, leading us toward growth. Jung's approach to dreams wasn't to interpret symbols rigidly, but to help individuals explore their own meanings. His theory is both spiritual and psychological. He didn't believe in limiting personality to childhood experiences or behavior patterns. Instead, he saw each person as on a journey, not just through life, but through the self. His ideas bridged Eastern and Western philosophies, science and myth, logic and mystery. Though Carl Jung worked over a century ago, his insights still deeply influence modern psychology, therapy, and personality research. His work laid the foundation for personality types, shadow work, and even many self-help and mindfulness practices we use today. In a world that often focuses on surface-level behavior, Jung invites us to look inward, to ask deeper questions about who we really are. And maybe that's the most important takeaway from Jung. Your personality isn't fixed, and it isn't fake. It's a vast, evolving system, part conscious, part unconscious, made of dreams, instincts, masks, fears, stories, and strengths. Becoming who you truly are means walking the path inward, through all your layers, even the ones you're afraid to see. As we continue our journey into personality psychology, we can't fully understand Carl Jung without first understanding his complex, fascinating, and ultimately painful relationship with Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis. In the early 1900s, Jung and Freud weren't just colleagues. They were pioneers walking into uncharted territory. Freud saw Jung as his intellectual heir, someone who would carry forward the legacy of psychoanalysis into the future. Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist with a deep interest in myth, religion, and the unconscious, admired Freud deeply. Their letters were filled with admiration and mutual respect. They even called each other father and son. But as with many powerful minds, their paths eventually diverged, and when they did, it reshaped the very core of psychological science. At the heart of their disagreement was the nature of the unconscious. Freud's view was grounded in biology and sexuality. He believed that our unconscious mind was primarily a storage space for repressed desires, mostly of sexual or aggressive nature. According to Freud, personality is formed through childhood experiences, especially how we deal with inner conflict around desire and social norms. For him, everything could be traced back to libido, the sexual energy driving human behavior. Jung, on the other hand, believed Freud's view was too narrow, too reductionist. Jung didn't deny that sexuality played a role in human psychology, but he felt that the human psyche was far more vast, more symbolic, and more spiritual than Freud allowed. Jung argued that the unconscious was not just a dark pit of repressed instincts, but also a source of wisdom, creativity, and ancient knowledge. This was a radical shift. Freud divided the psyche into three parts: the ID, ego, and superego. But Jung proposed something different: the ego, the personal unconscious, and the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious was where Jung believed all humans are connected, a layer of the mind that contains archetypes, myths, and symbols that are shared across cultures and history. Where Freud saw the unconscious as something to conquer, Jung saw it as something to explore. Their differences also showed in their views of religion and spirituality. Freud viewed religion as an illusion, a collective neurosis created by human beings to deal with helplessness and fear. Jung, however, saw religion and myth as profound expressions of a human psyche. He believed symbols and religious stories were not nonsense, but representations of deep psychological truths. Jung didn't see God as a fantasy. He saw the divine as a powerful image emerging from the deepest parts of the human mind. The breaking point between the two wasn't just intellectual, it was emotional. Freud wanted loyalty. He wanted Jung to support psychoanalysis without question, to keep it unified. But Jung couldn't silence his inner voice. He felt suffocated by Freud's dogmatic insistence on sexuality as the central theme of human psychology. In one of their last major meetings, Freud collapsed, literally fainted, during a tense conversation, which Jung later interpreted as a symbol of Freud's refusal to confront the unconscious in a more expansive way. Eventually, their friendship ended. They stopped writing, stopped meeting, and moved forward on separate paths. Freud continued developing psychoanalysis, while Jung went on to create analytical psychology, a completely new branch of personality theory. This split wasn't just personal drama between two men. It was a defining moment in the history of psychology. It represented two ways of seeing the human mind. Freud's method was scientific, deterministic, focused on the past, childhood, and neurosis. Jung's approach was symbolic, integrative, and aimed at transformation and future growth. Freud asked, "What causes pain?" Jung asked, "What can this pain teach us?" Despite their differences, Jung never disrespected Freud. He always acknowledged Freud's genius and his role in opening up the study of the unconscious. But he also believed that human beings are more than their trauma. For Jung, we are stories unfolding, guided by meaning, searching for wholeness, capable of becoming something greater than our conditioning. And that, perhaps, is a legacy of the separation. Freud taught us how we become who we are. Jung taught us how we might become who we're meant to be. When we think of personality, most people imagine something internal, our thoughts, feelings, beliefs, or perhaps something spiritual or unconscious. But B.F. Skinner, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, had a radically different idea. He didn't look inside the mind to understand personality. Instead, he looked outside at the environment, at behavior, and most importantly, at consequences. Skinner believed that we are shaped more by what happens to us than by what happens inside us. According to him, personality isn't a fixed trait or a mystical inner structure. It's simply a pattern of behaviors learned over time through reinforcement. In simpler terms, who we are is shaped by how the world has responded to us. He introduced the concept of operant conditioning, a process by which behavior is strengthened or weakened depending on the consequences that follow. If a behavior is followed by a reward, it's likely to be repeated. If it's followed by a punishment or no reward, it's likely to fade away. This isn't just a theory for lab rats pressing levers. Skinner believed this principle applied to everything humans do, from the way we speak, to how we handle emotions, to the roles we play in relationships. It all comes down to reinforcement history. In Skinner's view, there's no need to talk about inner drives, unconscious desires, or deep emotional wounds. Those concepts, he believed, were unnecessary and unscientific. What matters is observable behavior and the environment in which that behavior occurs. If you want to understand someone's personality, you don't need to dig into their childhood memories or subconscious. You need to look at their history of rewards and punishments. Take, for example, a child who grows up in a home where being quiet and obedient is constantly praised and rewarded. Over time, that child learns that silence equals approval. Eventually, they may become known as shy, reserved, or introverted. But from Skinner's point of view, it's not because of some deep trait. It's because that behavior was reinforced. On the flip side, if a child is constantly ignored unless they're loud, dramatic, or aggressive, they may grow into someone labeled as attention-seeking. Again, not because of personality, but because of learned behavior. Skinner's ideas have often been misunderstood as cold or robotic. Critics accuse him of turning humans into machines, creatures who simply respond to rewards and punishments like animals in a cage. But Skinner didn't see humans that way. In fact, he believed that by understanding behavior, we could improve lives. He saw a great potential in shaping environments to promote better outcomes. If we can shape behavior, then we can shape society. Education, parenting, therapy, all could benefit from understanding how reinforcement works. His ideas influenced everything from classroom management to addiction treatment. In education, for example, positive reinforcement, like praise, privileges, or rewards, is now a standard tool for encouraging learning. In therapy, behavioral techniques are used to help people unlearn destructive habits like smoking, phobias, or negative thinking. Skinner's theory gave us a practical toolkit for real-world change. One of the most fascinating things about Skinner's approach is that it challenges the idea of blame. If people behave the way they've been conditioned to, then we can't simply say someone is bad or broken. Instead, we look at the system, the environment that shaped them. This shift in perspective has helped reduce stigma around certain behaviors and encourage more compassionate, evidence-based interventions. However, Skinner's model also has limitations. It tends to overlook the richness of inner experience, things like dreams, desires, and free will. Where Freud and Jung were diving into the ocean of the unconscious, Skinner was walking firmly on the shore, measuring waves. His work didn't account for imagination, spirituality, or the uniqueness of personal meaning. For many, that left his theory feeling incomplete. Still, even those who disagree with Skinner's reductionist view can't deny his impact. His work helped turn psychology into a measurable scientific discipline. He made behavior observable, predictable, and in many ways manageable. In a world full of theories that rely on unseen forces and metaphors, Skinner gave psychology a sharp, practical edge. Personality, from his perspective, is not a mysterious force within us. It's a result of repeated actions, reinforced by our environment over time. And in that simplicity lies both power and possibility. Because if behavior is learned, it can also be unlearned. If personality is shaped by consequences, it can also be reshaped by changing those consequences. So, whether we agree with him fully or not, B.F. Skinner's behaviorist theory offers a valuable lens. It reminds us that change is possible, that with the right environment, encouragement, and understanding of human behavior, even the most fixed personality traits can begin to shift. When we explore personality psychology, two powerful perspectives often stand in direct contrast: the analytical theory rooted in Carl Jung's work and the behavioral theory shaped by B.F. Skinner. These two frameworks approach the question of who we are from entirely different directions. One turns inward, while the other looks outward. One focuses on the unseen depths of the human mind, the other on visible, measurable actions. Understanding the differences between them reveals not just how we study personality, but also how we understand change, growth, and identity itself. Jung's analytical psychology invites us to look inside, into the unconscious, into symbols, archetypes, and dreams. It speaks of things we cannot see, cannot touch, yet deeply feel. Jung believed the unconscious wasn't just a storage unit for forgotten memories, but an active, living system influencing how we relate to the world, to others, and to ourselves. According to this view, your personality is not just what you do or how you behave. It's a journey toward becoming your whole self, a process called individuation, integrating your shadow, your persona, and your deeper self into one authentic being. On the other side stand behaviorism, especially Skinner's radical behaviorism, which doesn't concern itself with symbols or dreams. Instead, it studies what can be seen and measured, behavior. The behaviorist doesn't ask, what does your dream mean? But what behavior are you repeating and what consequences are keeping alive? In this view, personality is a product of environmental conditioning. You are who you are because certain behaviors have been rewarded, while others have been discouraged. There's no need to explore childhood fantasies or spiritual archetypes. Just examine what patterns have been reinforced over time. One of the most defining differences between the two theories lies in their view of the unconscious. Jung saw the unconscious as deep, mysterious, and essential. To him, exploring the unconscious through dreams, art, and self-reflection was the path to understanding personality. Skinner, however, saw the unconscious as irrelevant to science. If it can't be observed or measured, he argued, it shouldn't be part of psychological theory. For behaviorists, internal states like feelings or thoughts might exist, but they're not the focus. What matters is behavior, what people actually do, not what they feel inside. The difference also extends to the view of free will. Jung acknowledged free will, but emphasized the power of unconscious forces shaping our actions, and the need to bring those forces into awareness to reclaim control. Skinner took a more deterministic stance. He believed free will is an illusion. According to him, our choices are just the result of environmental histories. If you chose kindness over anger, it's probably because kindness was rewarded more often in your life. Change, then, doesn't come from insight or awakening. It comes from altering the environment and reinforcement patterns. When it comes to therapy and personal development, these perspectives offer different tools. A Jungian therapist might guide a person through dream analysis, helping them uncover hidden symbols and reconnect with their lost self. They might explore myths, archetypes, and personal meaning. The focus is on deep insight, inner growth, and spiritual balance. Meanwhile, a behaviorist therapist might focus on shaping specific behaviors, reducing anxiety by rewarding calmness, or breaking addiction by eliminating triggers and reinforcing healthy habits. There's no digging into the past or analyzing symbols, just structured behavior change based on reinforcement. Despite their differences, both perspectives offer value. Analytical theory reminds us of the rich, symbolic nature of human life. That personality is not just behavior, but story, emotion, and unconscious meaning. It allows space for mystery, complexity, and depth. Behavioral theory, in contrast, offers practicality. It gives us tools we can apply in real time to influence behavior, manage habits, and create positive routines. Where Jung offers introspection, Skinner offers action. Interestingly, both theories also reflect different kinds of hope. Jung offers the hope that no matter how lost or divided we feel, we can become whole through inner work and awareness. Skinner offers a hope that no matter what our past looks like, we can shape a better future by changing how we respond and how others respond to us. Today, modern psychology often blends these perspectives. Many therapists use behaviorist tools while still recognizing the importance of deeper emotional and symbolic layers. Personality tests might rely on Jungian ideas like introversion and archetypes, while treatment plans for disorders might follow Skinner's reinforcement principles. Rather than choosing one over the other, many psychologists now ask, how can both be useful? At their core, both Jung and Skinner were trying to answer the same question. Why do people behave the way they do? But they look through completely different lenses. Jung gazed into the soul. Skinner watched behavior. Jung explored meaning. Skinner measured outcome. And in doing so, each of them captured a different truth, one about the world within us, and the other about the world around us. Even though Carl Jung and B.F. Skinner developed their theories decades ago, their influence continues to shape how we understand personality today, not just in academic psychology, but in therapy, education, leadership, relationships, and even in popular culture. Their ideas are no longer limited to textbooks. They have seeped into our everyday language, our self-help practices, and the way we try to grow as human beings. Jung's work laid the foundation for many of today's most popular personality tools. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, MBTI, for example, is directly inspired by Jung's typology, especially his concept of introversion versus extroversion, thinking versus feeling, and sensing versus intuition. Millions of people take this test not only to understand themselves, but also to make career decisions, improve communication, or choose compatible partners. Even though some psychologists debate its scientific accuracy, the MBTI's continued relevance proves how deeply Jung's ideas resonate with people on a personal level. Beyond personality tests, Jung's idea of archetypes continues to influence storytelling, marketing, leadership training, and even therapy. Writers use archetypes, like the hero, the mentor, the rebel, and the shadow, to create characters that audiences instantly connect with. Therapists working with trauma or identity crises often draw on Jungian techniques like shadow work, encouraging clients to explore the hidden or denied parts of themselves. In leadership coaching, the idea of integrating the warrior or sage archetype is used to help individuals step into roles that align with their deeper sense of purpose. Jung's emphasis on self-awareness in the journey of individuation also echoes in modern mindfulness movements, spiritual coaching, and personal development programs. Whether it's journaling, meditation, dream interpretation, or inner child work, many modern tools are essentially rooted in Jung's belief that understanding the inner world can transform the outer one. Meanwhile, Skinner's legacy is seen most clearly in behavioral psychology, which continues to have a massive impact on areas like education, therapy, organizational behavior, and habit formation. Techniques based on operant conditioning, like positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, punishment, and extinction, are used everywhere from classrooms to addiction centers. In schools, behavior charts, reward systems, and behavior contrasts all rely on Skinner's core idea: reinforce the behavior you want to see, and it will likely increase. In parenting, sticker charts and timeouts are direct applications of behaviorist thinking. In therapy, especially in approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and behavior modification therapy, Skinner's principles are used to treat anxiety, depression, phobias, OCD, and more. These methods don't try to explore unconscious symbols. They focus on identifying triggers, changing responses, and reinforcing healthier behaviors. Skinner's influence has also shaped how we think about systems. Instead of blaming individuals for their behavior, we look at the environments they're in. This perspective has informed everything from prison reform to workplace motivation systems. If behavior is shaped by consequences, then changing those consequences can change the outcome, and that's a powerful, hopeful idea. Technology has taken Skinner's concepts to another level. Social media platforms use reinforcement schedules, likes, comments, notifications, to keep users engaged. These are modern-day operant conditioning tools, proving how behaviorist ideas still drive major industries. At the same time, apps like Duolingo or fitness trackers use rewards, streaks, and badges to encourage learning and consistency. These aren't just gimmicks. They're built on Skinner's science. Despite their differences, both Jung and Skinner contributed pieces to a larger puzzle, and today's psychology often blends their work. Therapists may use behaviorist methods to treat surface-level habits, while also exploring deeper emotional or symbolic issues, using Jungian insight. Coaches and educators might use reinforcement tools, while also helping individuals reflect on their deeper values, motives, or archetypes. The best of modern practice doesn't choose one over the other. It integrates both. Their ideas also push us to ask better questions. Jung reminds us to ask, what parts of myself have I ignored? What dreams or symbols are trying to guide me? What does wholeness mean in my life? Skinner, on the other hand, pushes us to ask, what patterns am I repeating? What rewards are maintaining my current behavior? What can I change in my environment to support new habits? Perhaps that's why their work still feels alive. These aren't just dead theories written in dusty journals. They're living ideas that continue to help people understand themselves, make better choices, and grow. Jung gave us the language for the inner journey. Skinner gave us the tools to take action in the outer world. And between the two of them, they shaped a vision of psychology that's both reflective and practical, symbolic and scientific, soulful and strategic. In the end, their lasting influence isn't about who is more right or more scientific. It's about how their ideas continue to empower people. Jung taught us that meaning matters. Skinner taught us that structure works. Together, they remind us that personality isn't a trap we're stuck in. It's a process we can participate in, shape, and even transform. So, what truly defines personality? Is it the silent forces of the unconscious, shaping us from within like Jung believed, archetypes, shadows, and the lifelong journey of becoming whole? Or is it the visible behaviors we repeat every day, shaped by our environment's rewards and consequences? Just as Skinner argued, the truth is, both perspectives offer something essential. Jung reminds us that we are more than our actions. We are dreams, symbols, stories, and potential waiting to be discovered. His theory invites us to explore ourselves from the inside out, embracing even the parts of us we hide, fear, or don't understand. Skinner, on the other hand, grounds us. He reminds us that change is real, tangible, and possible, that we are not trapped by who we are today. Because our behavior can be reshaped, patterns can be broken, and environments can be redesigned to support growth. Together, their legacies continue to shape modern psychology. From therapy rooms and classrooms to corporate coaching and self-help communities, their ideas echo everywhere. Whether we're digging into the depths of our psyche or changing our habits one step at a time, we are walking the paths they carved. And maybe that's the most powerful thing about understanding personality, realizing that it's not just something we have, it's something we can understand, shape, and grow into. In the end, personality is not just a label, it's a journey. And the more we know about where we come from, what drives us, and how we evolve, the more empowered we become to live with intention, authenticity, and transformation.